Hello again. Okay, so welcome to the next instalment of Harry the Poisonous Centipede. Okay, so today we're going to start on chapter 9. But let's just remind ourselves, yesterday, right at the end of the story, it's a bit of a cliffhanger at the end, wasn't it? So Harry had just bitten into the cricket mole, and the cricket mole went stiff. Its claw paws drooped to the ground. Its thick, jointed legs had collapsed under it, and it fell with a thud right on top of Harry. Chapter 9, George to the rescue. Harry's legs collapsed too, all 42 of them. His head and his first 4 segments were pinned under the paralysed mole cricket. He was stunned. He lay still for a minute and then began wriggling and writhing. He tried to pull backwards. He tried to lift his head and shift the weight off him. He couldn't. The thing was too heavy. He tried to call George. He couldn't, but he did the next best thing. He lifted his back 5 segments clear off the ground and waved a desperate signal with his tail feelers. George, who was practically back at the hole, had felt the vibration as the thing fell. Now he looked back. He caught the signal Harry was sending with his tail feelers. He hesitated. The signal Harry was sending was, "Help, help, help." But the signal George was getting was more like, "Danger, danger, danger." He wanted to keep on running, back down the hole to safety. But Harry was his best friend. He couldn't just leave him to the monster. He turned and raced back as fast as he could, which was very fast. As soon as he saw what had happened, he crackled loudly, "Hang on, Hooks, I'm here. I'll soon have you out." Then he caught hold of one of the mole cricket's legs in his mouth and pulled. He twisted and turned and jerked his head. The mole cricket was a dead weight. It was much heavier than anything George had ever tried to drag before. But at last it started to shift. As soon as Harry felt it begin to move, he made a strong effort himself and soon got his head and front segments free. "Thanks, Gund. Phew. If you hadn't come back, I'd have just stayed there till I starved, or something got me." Chapter 10, The Feast. George rubbed his round, hard head segment against Harry's. "You were braver than me. You bit it." "It's ours now." "What shall we do?" "Drag it home and eat it for dinner." "Yes." They started to drag and pull it with all their might. Between them, they got it back to the hole and then went behind it and tipped it down. It started to slide down the tunnel. They ran after it and pushed and shoved some more. It slid right to the bottom. After that, they crawled over it and dragged it along to Belinda's nest tunnel. They arrived at last. They were tired out. Belinda was there. She didn't say anything at first, just raised herself up and felt the mole cricket all over with her front feelers. Then she dropped down onto all 42 legs again. She turned right round in a tight circle several times, which is what she always did when she just didn't know what to say or do. "Oh, you bad, brave, naughty, wonderful Centis," she said at last. "You've been up to the no-top world, haven't you? What am I to do with you?" "Could you just help us take the thing's fur off so we can all eat it for dinner?" asked Harry in a small but proud crackle. His mother wrapped her first 7 pairs of legs around him and gave him a terrific hug. Then she hugged George too. They had a feast. Belinda had never tasted mole cricket before. She knew what they were, all right, and told the Centis that they burrowed under the ground, making useful tunnels, and ate roots mainly, but they were so frightening looking that she had never dared try to attack one. She said, though, that the 2 Centis had been very foolish to go to the no-top world without her, and that they weren't to do it again until they were grown up. "Now, promise me." Harry was just going to promise when George said, "Hey, what was that vibration? Was it a toad or just a grasshopper?" Belinda rushed up to the nearest tunnel to see what it was and forgot to make them promise. If centipedes could wink, George would have winked at Harry. Chapter 11. George wants a thrill. After their adventure with the mole cricket, George wanted to do something even more exciting. Ordinary mischief was no good anymore. He wanted another big thrill. Even if he had promised Harry's mother not to go back to the surface, I'm afraid he might not have kept it. But anyway, he hadn't. So he started to make regular trips. Harry didn't go with him. What's the matter, sissy feelers? Scaredy ant. Why won't you come? Taunted George, who didn't like having adventures by himself. I don't want to worry Mama, muttered Harry uncomfortably. George gave a great crackle and waved his front feelers crazily in all directions. That is a Senti's way of laughing mockingly. Mama's Senti, Mama's Senti, he teased. Anyway, it's silly, said Harry, when he could make himself heard. We don't want to get hurt or killed. Last night I was chased by a hairy biter, boasted George. It jumped down out of a tree and chased me, but I felt it hit the ground and I ran straight between its legs and up the tree and into a crack where it couldn't get me. I wasn't scared. Big clumsy thing. I heard it coming a mile off. Harry wasn't sure whether to believe him. George was a big show-off. Maybe you're braver than me, he said, but I've got more sense than you anyway. And he turned and ran down a tunnel. After a bit, George came after him. All right. If you don't want to go up to the no-top world, think of something exciting to do down here. Harry didn't say anything. Something more than just exciting had popped into his head at once. He moved his front feelers about in a thoughtful way. George guessed that he had something interesting in his mind. What? What? He crackled, waving his legs in ripples of excitement along his sides. The up pipe. But we mustn't. Oh, what's the up pipe? It's a kind of tunnel. But we can't go up it. Mama said not to, I suppose, jeered George. Yes, she did, because it leads to the place of humans. George stopped making ripples. Humans? What's that? I thought you said you knew about humans. George looked uncomfortable. I thought they were just another kind of hairy biter, he said. Go on then. Tell me what they are. Harry told him, as well as he could. He'd never seen one himself. Well, you know we sometimes hear very big vibrations, and you know how Mama never ever goes up to see what they are? That's them. They're giant two-legses, as big as trees. Each one of their feet is as big as a whole hairy biter, and they're fast. They try to get you by smashing you with their shadows. Harry had got a bit muddled. Can you eat them? Eat them? Oh, sure, of course. A nice little snack. George looked blank. Well, could you drag a tree home, stupid? They both started laughing. They laughed till they rolled on their backs. Then suddenly George jerked himself right side up and said, I want to see one. They only come out in the bright time, Harry said. We could stay awake and go up in the bright time. Up? The up pipe? Asked Harry in a shocked crackle. Are they only up the up pipe? No, Mama told me one chased her on the no-top world. So we could just peep at them through a hole, said George. But show me the up pipe first. No. Oh, go on. It can't hurt to look. I dare you to show it to me. Harry couldn't resist the dare, so he said, all right then. But remember, it's not the up pipe that's dangerous. It's the humans that live at the top. Okay, we're going to stop that there. So we will carry on with some more of the story tomorrow, and I hope that you are enjoying the story. Okay, and see you tomorrow.